Welcome to the Tech Data World podcast, the independent voice in aerospace, defense, and space technical information, covering all the news, reviews, gossip, opinion, software, standards, and specifications in the information production and deployment field.
Hello everyone and welcome to episode 9 of the TDW podcast. Can you absolutely believe it? I can't. We're flying through all of these topics. We have hundreds of topics that we are planning to bring to you via our normal social channels on YouTube and that kind of stuff. But this is kind of where we sit down, we chew the cud, we have some thoughts, and we put them into a podcast. So welcome to those of you who are listening on our podcast channels, whether that's on Google Play, Spotify, iTunes, or any of your favourite. I'm told that it's available on most now, in any case, on most platforms now. And those of you who are watching me on our YouTube channel, welcome. And this week I'm going to talk a little bit about why TechPubs is going mainstream. And as you know, I get pretty excited about these kind of topics and these subjects, and I get very excited about technical information as a whole. And, you know, I tend to, some might say, get overexcited. But before I move into this podcast, I just want to give everybody a reminder who listens to us on our podcast channels, and if you're watching this on YouTube, we have had to change our newsletter lists. Now, if you have not seen any of those notifications, you've stopped receiving our newsletters, you must re-sign up to our newsletter. This is because of the new GDPR regulations. I'm not going to go into what they are here because I've done a couple of tutorials on those. You need to go over and you need to go and have a little listen to that and understand why that if you have stopped receiving emails from us, or if you stopped receiving emails after the 25th of May, then you have not resubscribed. And if you're having problems resubscribing, as many do because of the secure networks that they are on, just send an email to us here at TDW and we'll be more than happy to manually add you. So anyway, that's a little bit of kind of podcast announcement. So I want to talk this week about why TechPubs is going mainstream. And to do that, I'm actually going to tell you a little story. Now, for those of you who are listening on the podcast, I'm actually holding up something that we have recently purchased ourselves here at TDW. And if you want to, you can head on over to the YouTube channel and see exactly what it is that I'm talking about. And I'll get Jamie to post a picture as well of what it is I'm talking about. Now, we've bought ourselves a Mavic Pro drone. Now, these things are becoming crazily popular, and I follow lots of forums online, and you know, everybody is kind of trying to outdo each other in how they can fly these things and how brave they can be, and you know, some might interpret that as being stupid. But we bought one of these, and we bought one because from a videography and a photography perspective, it brings in a fantastic and new dimension to how you can view the world. And you may have seen already that we've included some drone footage on some of our tutorials. And this particular drone, which we have been flying now for, I think it's about 2 or 3 months, Jamie and I have been flying it. We have been kind of looking at how best we can use this at TDW. And one of the things that we're doing is not only are we using it for the photography and the videography, we are going to be using it to do some tutorials. So we're going to be talking about how do we break this down into a modular technical information approach, and how do we document it, and how do we start putting together manuals for this. And that's not why I want to talk about the mainstream of this. Now, as I've said, these are becoming mass market, and if you follow any of the FAAs, the CAAs, the JAA, and all of those kind of guys online, these are a huge headache for the community, for the airspace community. They're becoming a real pain in the backside. Now, there are already rules and regulations out there that you must comply with to use these drones safely and in a way that is not intrusive on others, but you're not going to wipe somebody out if you're using it. Now, if you want to use these drones for commercial purposes, then, and commercial purposes means i.e. you're being paid to do it. Now, I've recently had a friend ask if we can drone footage their wedding of their daughter, and I can't charge for it because I don't have a commercial license yet. Now, we are actually studying for our commercial licenses here at TDW, and one thing that you have to be able to do during your commercial training is you have to produce an operator's manual. And that operator's manual has to contain a whole raft of things that we would expect in a normal aerospace operator's manual. In fact, it goes slightly deeper, and I personally believe not only is this fantastic and I get excited about it, and I start jumping up and down about how this is absolutely something that is needed for our market, but I believe that this is only going to become more and more, even if you are not going to be using it for a commercial purpose. I believe soon legislation will come in that everybody needs to demonstrate that they know how to use these things safely and correctly. Now, if you use it for a commercial purpose, you have to have all the relevant insurance, the documentation. You have to demonstrate you can operate it correctly. You need to know how to read a flight map and those kind of things, which is not super taxing, but is something that demonstrates to the CAA or the FAA that you guys know how to operate and fly one of these things. Now, the reason why I think that this is going to go even deeper is because if you, as I say, and I mentioned, if you go on to any of these Facebooks, these YouTubes, or, and you watch these, let's call them amateurs, and some of them are actually really very, very talented videographers and photographers. But as with any sector, you get the occasional maverick who tries to do something that they clearly don't understand the characteristics of flight. So for the drone, and as I pick the drone up, and ours is a Mavic Pro, so those of you listening, you can go and Google a picture of the Mavic Pro. What they're doing for things like this is they're doing crazy things, like they're adding little LED lights to the tips of the blades. They're strapping another camera to the top of the drone, or they're trying to they're having little competitions on how to carry payloads up over some buildings and dropping it off, and those kind of things. Now, that really means that this is becoming something that is now being operated outside its area of how it's been designed to be operated. Now, if just Google drone accidents and you'll see all of the people that have had their fingers pretty much taken off or slashed open, because these things are whizzing around and they are very, very dangerous. And you got people trying to hand land them, and crazy things. Now, being a helicopter engineer, I know and I've seen the damage that these blades can cause when they are whizzing around. And, if somebody who doesn't know how to respect what's going on from an engineering perspective in this, and they start messing around with the characteristics of flight, so starting to add there's a whole industry out there for decal, and decal means that they're putting their own stickers over this, they're putting their own, emblems on this. Now, that's probably not that significant, but if you work in the aircraft sector, you know that every time you paint something, or every time you add transfers or something, significant things like that, you have to weigh an aircraft. You have to make sure that the weights and balances are not affected. You need to make sure that this thing is still going to operate and fly as designed. This is why when we go to our airport and the pilot needs to know how many people he's got on board, he needs to know what kind of baggage they're carrying, he needs to know what his payload is, how much fuel he's got, he needs to know, the weather conditions, he needs to know how this thing is going to fly. So I think that first and foremost, Tech Docs has come mainstream because these drones are becoming super, super popular, and people are flying them for leisure, but they're also now starting to use them for, we had a friend here ask us to fly it over the top of his house so he could, have a look at his roof and see if there was anything wrong with his roof. Those kind of things. It opens up a whole new world, but it also opens up a whole new world of rogue operators, which I believe is going to be clamped down on. So that is why in this very short podcast, I'm saying to you that Tech Docs is becoming mainstream and will continue to become mainstream as these things become more and more popular, and has people like me who want to try and use them for their videography, for their photography, and try and use them for tutorials like we're going to be using with TDW. Now, of course, then I started laughing about, I asked a couple of guys who were on their courses saying, so of course you guys are producing these manuals to the ATA specifications, or you're using S1000D. Of course, they have no frickin' idea what any of those things are. Microsoft Word, do the manual, that's the manual, has to be version controlled, has to be signed off by the CAA, and they have to demonstrate that they are operating their drones in accordance with that operating manual. And if they're not, then they will get into trouble. And I believe that this will only I believe soon we will have to start showing that we're maintaining it, we're cleaning it, we're testing it, and, we're making sure that it's airworthy, those kind of things. I believe we're going to be able to, or we're going to have to start demonstrating that that is the case. So that's why in this podcast, I just wanted to talk a little bit about why Tech Docs is going mainstream. Now, just a reminder, please do make sure you sign up to the GDPR list that's on our website. Again, newsletters will stop very, very soon. And let me know if you guys are flying drones and playing with drones and seeing what you can do with them. They actually pretty much fly themselves because they are so easy to operate. It's just, you have to be aware of certain safety factors. But anyway, that was podcast episode 9, why Tech Pubs is going mainstream. In the next podcast, I'm going to be talking a little bit about the first thing I try and suggest to a client if a relationship has broken down with their service provider or software vendor. So that'll be episode number 10, and I look forward to speaking to you then. If you have any thoughts, suggestions, ideas, or questions, do get in touch with us here at Member Services. You know how to get in touch with the guys here at TDW now. At that point, episode 9, that is why Tech Docs, Tech Pubs is going mainstream.
Thank you for listening to the TDW podcast. Remember, you can keep your tech data skills current and relevant with a full TDIQ subscription. Visit www.techdataworld.com for more details. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube for your next Tech Data World update. Until next time.